Hey guys, this is Kevin, and I am still continuing the Expat Philippines series, trying to give you some advice on for foreigners or Westerners like myself who want to move to the Philippines or thinking about living there, even visiting there. I think some of what I'm going to say can help you. And today I'm going to be talking about avoiding cons, scams, and cheats, rip-offs, that kind of thing. Let me start off with this, and I just want to be very clear on something. I love the Filipino people. I love Filipino culture. I am married to a Filipina. So don't take this video as me trying to say that all Filipinos are dishonest or cheats or whatever. That is simply not true at all. In fact, I get irritated when people do nothing except complain here on YouTube about the Philippines. I'm probably going to make another video about that this morning. So I'm not saying that Filipinos are dishonest. I am not saying that. In fact, I found most of them to be very friendly and very humble and very hospitable. And so keep that in mind as a frame of reference before I get moving into this video. Having said that, I have met a lot of people, or quite a few Westerners, who end up moving to the Philippines and have bad experiences. And maybe it's because they just have failed to keep a few things in mind, or maybe no one has warned them or taught them about what to look out for. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. The first thing you need to be aware of, if you are a Westerner moving to the Philippines, the people are generally, or not everyone, but a lot of people are going to have this perception that you are rich, that you're wealthy. And you may ask, well, why do people see it that way? Well, to a certain extent, in relative terms, it may be true. If you take someone who makes the average salary or maybe a below average salary of $40,000 a year, as all of you know, that is not big money in the U.S. You're not living an extravagant life on that kind of money anywhere that I can think of in the States. But that amount of money, $40,000 a year, that is close to 2 million peso based on the current exchange rate. So with people maybe not really understanding the differences in the cost of living, they know some of this information, and they're going to think that this guy's got a lot of money. I remember one time that I was in the mall, and occasionally there were issues with the ATM machines. They would go offline or whatever, and there were people were trying to get their money out of this particular ATM, and it was not working for whatever reason. So I went up to it and put my card in, and I was, trying to get a little money out. It wasn't working, and I remember hearing a young woman behind me talking to her friend, and she said, "Alam ko na marami siyang pera," which is, I know he has a lot of money. What they were saying is, well, if I can't get my money out, then there's definitely something wrong with this ATM machine. So that's going to be the perception that people have of you. And added to that is the fact that you're going to stand out in the crowd. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to look at me, as white as I am, and see that walking through the mall in the Philippines somewhere, I really stuck out. I was really easy to find. So if you have con men and scammers and people like that, they're going to have an easy time targeting you. And it's not that there's necessarily a lot of them in the Philippines. It's just the few that are there, they have an easy time finding you because you're a Westerner. So keep that in mind. First and foremost is the perception people are going to have is that you're wealthy. Now, another thing that you can do, another thing to keep in mind that I believe will help you, it's going to be of great benefit to you if before you move to the Philippines, if somehow you can find at least one or two people that you can trust. That's going to be a big deal. I mentioned before that when I moved there, I already had a missionary kind of support system, a supervisor, different people who were mentoring me. And if you can find some people like that, it can be another expat, it can be Filipinos that you've befriended. If you can find just one or two people that you can trust, that's going to be huge. Because if you run into something of, needing to get something fixed or wanting just to go to the dentist, anything, it's really going to be helpful to you if you have someone you trust and you can ask, where would you go for this service? Who would you go to for this? Who will give me an honest deal? So that's another thing. If you can, if you just, I'll put it this way. Think about this. If you just show up in the Philippines without any contacts, without any previous experience, and some people do that and they end up doing well. But if you just show up there and you don't know anyone, the the type of people that are going to just walk up to you and start talking to you, there's a good chance that some of those people are not going to have good intentions. And now, if you think about that, that's not necessarily any different, as far as I'm concerned, as it would be here in the USA. I mean, think about this for a second. For example, imagine you've gone shopping and you're out in the parking lot somewhere, the mall, Walmart, wherever, and someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" Or, "Hey, what's your name?" What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what is the end game here? What does this guy want? What does this girl want? You see? And if you go to the Philippines you're relying on your social interactions being the people that just initially walk up to you, then you're probably not going to have a good experience. It's much better if you can start off knowing a few people and then build your relationships from there. And based on my experience, a lot of Filipinos are going to be, a lot of the good ones, not all of them, but a lot of the good ones are going to be a little bit shy about approaching a Westerner just kind of out of the blue. But if you will approach them, if you see a group of people your age, or even younger, when I was dealing with students, if I would walk up to a group of students who were just kind of hanging out or even sitting around eating lunch, and I said, "Can I join you? Can I talk to you for a minute?" and introduce myself, immediately that Filipino hospitality would come out. Immediately, "Oh, sure, why don't you come join us? Why don't you talk to us? What are you doing here in the Philippines? How do you like it here in the Philippines?" So those kind of interactions, and that's how I usually met people, were just so positive. Or if you join a gym in the Philippines, which I may talk about at some point, and start meeting people there, people that are, it's kind of more of a peer relationship. When I would go to the gym, I never had anybody try to, scam, try to scam me or rip me off. We would just talk about weights, talk about, the usual stuff. So I'm rambling a bit here, but the point is, again, it's really going to help you if you have a starting point to build relationships from. Don't rely on just people coming up to you, because some of those people may not have the best intentions. Okay, finally, I have one final thing that I'm going to say here. Do not loan or invest any amount of money that you cannot afford to lose. Okay, let me repeat that. Do not loan or invest any amount of money that's really going to hurt you if you lose it. And I think this is probably pretty good advice for anywhere you live. But you may have a friend or something who is really struggling, and you may want to help him or help her, and that's fine. I did that with my true friends, but I never would give an amount of money that would really hurt me if I didn't get it back. So you may have somebody say, I want to borrow. Can I borrow 3,000 peso for our power bill? We're really short this month. If you want to do that, it's okay, but don't be so generous that you end up hurting yourself because people are not paying you back. I hope that makes sense. Whenever I would either give somebody money or loan money, I made sure that it wasn't an amount that would really destroy my budget if I didn't get that back. Because if you think about it, as I've mentioned before, you're in a foreign country far away from home. If you end up going broke, then you're going to be in a really bad situation. You do not want to be broke overseas. So keep those three things in mind, okay? Remember that people are going to perceive you as being wealthy. Uh, Try to establish some relationships with people you trust, even before you go there, if possible. And the third thing, do not invest or loan money that you cannot afford to lose. One thing quickly I'll mention again on that third point is, you'll have people come up to you and say, I have this business proposal. Will you be an investor in this? And again, you don't know if it's legit, and even if it is legit, you don't know if this person approaching you really understands business. So that's something to keep in mind on the third point. And it seems like, okay. One final thing I'll add here, and this is true for about anywhere you live also. If something sounds or looks too good to be true, guess what? It probably is. When I was in Angeles, I can think of people that would come up to me wanting to sell like an iPhone to me, and I'm sure if I had asked, they would have been willing to sell me that iPhone on the street for probably $100 or something like that, or the peso equivalent. Well, there's obviously something wrong with a $100 iPhone. I mean, it could be stolen. It could be some little thing from China they've set up to where it'll look like an iPhone for a day or two and then it breaks. You never know. But if something sounds too good to be true, it almost certainly is. So that's the fourth thing I would advise you of too. That's a bonus there for you, free of charge. So keep these things in mind. As long as you keep these things in mind, I think what will happen to you is you'll avoid the scammers, and then you will meet some really wonderful, honest, hospitable people while you're there. And that will give you a much better experience than what will happen to you if you're not street smart. So if you'll hang on, if you'll kind of stay on the channel, the next video I'm going to share I'm going to be talking about toxic expats, and it's kind of related to this topic. So if you want to look out for that video, just look for a video called Toxic Expats. So I will see you next time.